26 years old. I'm hovering above a toilet in a motel room in Richmond, California, frantically flushing down all the methamphetamine that I haven't been able to sell over the last 2 days. I can't help but think, how the hell has my life come to this? I meet my parents in the lobby, just hours away from a one-way flight to Australia, my country of birth, and I know that once I leave, I will never return home. I meet my parents, and as I board the Qantas QF74 flight Sydney bound, I share a moment with my dad. I look at him, he's trying to be strong, but I could see the pain in his eyes. Don't worry, Dad. I will turn my life around. I will make you proud. Within 18 months of being in Australia, I'm facing prison, but again, and as always, alcohol is the main ingredient. And as I leave the police station and make my way home, the urge to drink builds up inside of me. That ever familiar craving to wipe myself out is taking hold. And standing in my bedroom, my head is racing, my heart is pounding. I will never, ever forget this moment. The moment. It's like I elevate outside of my body, and looking down, I finally see myself for what I am. A hopeless addict. Staring at the wall, my shoulders drop, and my face falls into my hands, and I sob uncontrollably. And as I come to, something shifts deep inside of me. And in this moment, I make the biggest decision that I will ever make in my life. I will never drink again. I'm done. But where to from here? If not defined by my addiction, consumed with its habits, attitudes, and behaviors, like who am I? But more importantly, who am I going to become? Recovery from addiction is incredibly difficult. That's why our numbers are so low. Now, there are countless reasons why people can't get sober. But those that can do so because they find meaning within their struggle. An incredibly difficult road marked by cravings, suffering, and a life often in tatters. In the short term, it takes deep commitment. But how do we do this for the rest of our lives? Now, it's easy to say, just change your habits. But when have you been able to simply change bad habits? And was it easy? Early on, I struggled a lot with who I was versus who I was becoming. When I was addicted, I craved the wrong things, and it was all-consuming. And the more I resisted, the harder it became. I needed to become someone new to cope with this, someone stronger, someone who did not need to drink or use to face the world. Beating addiction needs more. And the only way is to become a person who does not want to use. This is a shift of identity. You see, sobriety isn't something that I do. It's who I am. I met Roy in an Aboriginal treatment center. I learned that this charismatic community leader had grown up on an Aboriginal mission reserve in Wellington, New South Wales, with a single mom, 5 sisters, and 2 brothers. Roy had dreams and aspirations, but they were smashed by welfare dependency, antisocial behavior, and alcoholism. At 18, Roy was incarcerated and he was facing a lot of time. He was given a second chance and a guide entered his life. His guide's advice was simple: get educated, get a job. Roy went back to school and got a degree. Simple for some maybe, but for him it was a real struggle. So what did Roy do? Roy used his education to build his community. He found a reason to change his world for the people around him. Roy got into government and he became an advisor to the Prime Minister as co-chair of the Indigenous Advisory Council, eventually speaking at the United Nations. Now, can you imagine this? From a country New South Wales jail to a trusted advisor to prime ministers. Connecting with Roy on our recovery journeys, he says many things contributed to where he's at today. But at the heart of it, it was his community. A sense of responsibility to his Indigenous roots fueled him to become a leader. And this shifted the way he saw himself, his identity, from once a hopeless state, a disempowered person, to now a leader with clear direction. So, have you ever met someone that's escaped from a maximum security prison? I have. True story. Danny was born and raised in Cabramatta. And in 2001, driven by his addiction, he scaled the walls of Silverwater Prison. And with guards, Parramatta River Police, and the K-9 unit in pursuit, he got away. Danny was working with ex-offenders and addicts when we met. Built like a rugby player, covered in tattoos, he was definitely someone you would have wanted to avoid in his addiction. He started using drugs in his early teens. Danny told me at first, I just wanted to change the way I felt. And then one day he met heroin. And after becoming an IV user, he recalls telling himself, this is my life now. This is who I am. In that moment, Danny embraced the identity of an addict. 15 overdoses, multiple broken ribs from CPR, over 50 rehabs, and countless time in prison, Danny finally found his moment of clarity and decided that enough was enough. He went back to school and started working as a drug counselor, and then he received his greatest piece of advice from a mentor. Danny, find your purpose and share it with the world. And he did. Today, Danny's an entrepreneur, but more importantly, is he sees himself as one. It all started in the United States on a trip. He was checking out all these amazing entrepreneurs that he saw hustling in the tech scene, and he thought to himself, if they can do it, why can't I? Danny went on to build an app that has helped thousands of people stay clean and sober. Amazing, right? Danny shows us that through purpose, we can blaze a new path, transforming our mindset and the very way that we speak to ourselves, our identity. In 2018, I caught a 6 a.m. flight to Melbourne, sat down next to an older guy. He was reading Meister Eckhart, a 13th century German theologian. Now seriously, who does that, right? So of course I had to talk to the guy. So Bede's a 5 Dock resident. He holds a master's degree in applied sciences, and he's formally trained in Western psychotherapy, and he's very well versed in religion, philosophy, and basically everything. A totally brilliant man. It was also quite clear that he was a bit eccentric too. Now I was, surprised to learn that at the ripe old age of 60, his life had been at the brink of collapse. Although Bede had been sober for 18 years, he'd still been suffering. Sure, he had stopped drinking, but he still showed signs of being a drunk. It's what we in recovery circles call a dry drunk, and every day he was paying the price for his condition. So here's a man full of insights, all this knowledge, still suffering. It wasn't because he didn't know enough. No, rather it was for all the insights and knowledge he had, none of it could shift his reality. Knowledge became a noose around his neck. Bede learned of a monk in India whom he believed had an answer to his psychological suffering. And with the intention to study the monk's psychology from a Western practitioner's perspective, he traveled to India, but instead he became a student and lived with the monk for 14 months. Now here's the thing, Bede told me his whole life he tried to fix himself with more knowledge, but this only led to more distorted thinking and fractured relationships. It was only until he started to alter his attitudes through his actions that his world changed and his mind actually started to heal. And as he transformed, Bede discovered that others did too, in how they related to him. This was the key which freed him from the confines of his own mind and the dysfunction that came with. It allowed him to define a new narrative and a new sense of self, a new identity, to someone with a much more positive view of the world, other people, but most importantly, himself. Addiction is not just a habit. It owns our mind, body, and soul. And to truly overcome addiction, we must evolve or we die. Roy did this through the power of community, Danny through creation of purpose, and Bede through spiritual transformation. For me, it took all three. Recovery is a long road that we trudge. It's never easy, but the struggle is necessary. This is the path to lasting sobriety. It's not just about what we do. It's about who we become. Thank you.